how important it is to be thorough in cases like these, right?
Yes, sir, of course.
To check every alibi,
Yes, sir.
follow every possible lead,
Yes, and we did that.
and eliminate all possible suspects.
Yes, and once again, that is what we did.
I want to talk a little bit about your experience as a police officer. You're a senior member of the Midland Center Police Department, right?
I am, that's correct.
You've been working in law enforcement for over 10 years.
Yes, sir.
You've worked on over 1,000 cases,
I have.
400 of which included domestic violence.
That's right. And of course, 3 of the homicides that I've worked on also included domestic violence.
Now I want to talk about what you knew before you ever met Miss Ryder. On your way to Calkins Campground, you looked up her criminal record, right?
That's correct. That's very standard. I did the same thing with Corbin Dallas when I was speaking to him that morning.
Well, we'll talk about Corbin Dallas a little bit later, but before you got to Calkins Campground, you saw that Miss Ryder had a conviction for drug trafficking.
Yes, that's correct.
And you saw that she had a conviction for domestic violence against her adult half-sibling.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, after seeing both of those convictions, you met Miss Ryder.
Chronologically, yes.
You interrogated Miss Ryder.
Well, I interrogated her that evening, yes.
Well, you asked Miss Ryder a couple of questions when you arrived at Calkins Campground, right?
I did, of course. I was inquiring into where her daughter was. We were searching for the missing child.
Right, and you thought that she was in violation of her parole, right?
Well, sir, she told me that she was in violation of her parole, so that led me to think that she was.
Well, you never checked what the actual terms of her parole were.
We did later at the station. At that point, we determined that she was not actually in violation of her parole, but at that time she was being held for the murder of Parker Page.
Right, so you arrested her for a violation of her parole, right?
That's correct.
Now that entire interaction took less than 9 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Now this was before you thought that Parker Page had been murdered.
That's correct, yes. She was missing at that time.
And you knew that she'd gone missing while she was camping with Miss Ryder.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But you thought it was more important to arrest someone for a possible parole violation than to get help from the one person who might know where her daughter was.
Well, sir, actually the defendant informed me that she had no idea where her daughter was, so she would have not been able to assist us, unfortunately.
All right, but you didn't ask Miss Ryder what trails they'd walked the previous day.
No, that was not necessary.
You didn't ask Miss Ryder who they talked to the previous day.
That's correct, I did not.
What you did was arrest her and have her sent to the police station.
Yes, I arrested her for her parole violation, and then we continued, of course, the search for Parker Page.
Now I want to talk about that search a little bit. A couple of hours later, you actually found Parker's body, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You were at that crime scene for about an hour.
I was.
You were there before the body was secured.
That's correct. I secured the site and waited for the medical examiner.
And as soon as the medical examiner arrived, you left.
Well, we conducted a thorough search of the campground, but then I returned to the station to conduct interviews with key eyewitnesses as well as the defendant's interrogation.
That's exactly right. As soon as the medical examiner arrived on site, you left, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I had many officers at the site that were conducting the search as well as all other collection of evidence.
But you actually designated someone in charge, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, you work for MCPD, right?
I do. I'm in the Major Crimes Division.
But on site that day, there were 3 other government agencies, right?
That's correct.
It was Fish and Wildlife,
Yes, sir.
the medical examiner's office,
Yes, sir.
and the Midlands State Police Department.
That's correct, sir.
Now, you're aware that Midland State Police Department and the Midland Center Police Department are 2 different entities, right?
Yes, sir, I am aware of that.
They have different vehicles,
Yes, sir.
different officers,
Yes.
different data systems.
Yes.
And you designated a Midland State police officer to run the crime scene when you left, right?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may, Detective Chesney was at this crime scene for only 1 hour. This Midland State police officer was on site for 9 hours after the fact. What that Midland State police officer saw, Detective Chesney doesn't know. This is going to the weight of her testimony with regards to the totality of the evidence she collected in charging Jordan Ryder.
You have a response?
Yes, Your Honor. It was through the defense's, through Detective Chesney's testimony that she herself designated this officer. Therefore, there is clearly a link between the information that she collected herself on the scene, as well as the information collected by the Midland State Police afterwards. Otherwise, she wouldn't have designated an officer.
Your Honor, I'll be able to lay foundation that Detective Chesney doesn't actually know that officer's name.
Motion sustained.
Motion says, yes, Your Honor.
Movement to strike, Your Honor?
What is it exactly that you want to strike?
Just the question that was just asked.
Want to strike the question?
Yes, Your Honor.
Remind me exactly where we are so that I know what you're doing to strike.
The question's in regards to the Midland State Police Department.
You want to strike the answer?
The questions and answers, yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Now, after you examined the crime scene, you said something on direct that caught my ear. You said that you provided, in addition to this hiking stick, all the evidence you collected for the medical examiner, right?
Well, we delivered physical evidence of all of the evidence that we found at campsite 12. Additionally, we provided photos of every other piece of evidence that we collected at the campgrounds. So yes, sir.
Now, just to be clear, all of that evidence that you provided the medical examiner was 3 pieces of physical evidence.
Well, we provided photos of every piece of evidence we collected, but physically those 3, yes.
Right. All 3 of the pieces of physical evidence that you provided to the medical examiner were found in Miss Ryder's tent, right?
That's correct.
You didn't provide the medical examiner with any items from around the campground.
That's correct.
You didn't provide Miss Ryder with the medical examiner with any items found from Corbin Dallas's home.
Well, again, we did provide them with, we did provide Dr. Quincy with photos of this evidence, if that's your question.
Is it your testimony that you provided the medical examiner with photos from Corbin Dallas's home?
No, with photos from other campsites, excuse me.
So just to be clear, you provided the medical examiner with no evidence from Corbin Dallas's home.
Well, we did a thorough search of Corbin Dallas's home. That yielded no evidence that was relevant to this case, so there was nothing to deliver.
Now, I actually want to talk about that search and your interactions with Corbin Dallas. Now, when you arrived at Corbin Dallas's home, you noticed that his eyes were bloodshot.
Yes, sir, I did.
He told you that he was drunk.
He did tell me that, yes.
And you noticed that there were still intoxicants on his breath, right?
Yes, I did believe that I had noticed that.
Right. That after that, he told you that he thought Parker Page was missing.
Yes, he was the one that had originally called in that morning, so that's why we spoke with him.
That Parker Page had been kidnapped by her own mother.
That was his belief. Of course, at the time, we had not assumed anything of the sort. We were just looking for the missing child.
Right, and then after that, you searched Corbin Dallas's home, right?
Yes, sir.
You were looking for clues as to Parker Page's whereabouts, right?
Yes, sir.
2 hours went by.
Yes, that's correct.
And then Corbin Dallas suddenly remembered that he was able to track Parker Page's phone.
Well, it was an hour and 20 minutes, actually, since we had arrived. But yes, that's when he remembered that there was the Find My Phone app.
That was after reporting his niece missing.
Yes, sir.
All right, detective. Then, after that, you went to Hopkins Campground and you discovered everything that day, right?
Well, what do you mean by everything, sir?
Well, you went to the campground and then you investigated it.
Yes.
But you never went back to Corbin Dallas's home after this was ruled a homicide.
No, that was not necessary, sir.
You never went back to Corbin Dallas's home and looked for potential matches to Parker Page's injuries.
No, sir, that was not necessary. Again, we had done a thorough investigation of Corbin Dallas's home. We knew at that time that the hiking staff was the murder weapon, and there was no need for further investigation. I had done a background check and spoken with Corbin Dallas. There was no need to do any of that.
You never went to Corbin Dallas's home and checked if he had an identical hiking staff.
Objection needlessly cumulative. May I explain, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, Detective Chesney has already testified that they did in fact search Corbin Dallas's home on the first visit, that they searched and found any information that may be relevant and conducted a background search. They've already testified that they did not go back. This line of questioning is becoming needlessly cumulative.
Your Honor, if I may, 403 is an incredibly high bar. In order to keep this out under Rule 403, this must be substantially more needlessly cumulative than it is probative. And pointing out the flaws in Detective Chesney's investigation are incredibly probative for the jury.
Any response?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe that this line of questioning is becoming substantially more cumulative as these questions have already been answered and can be inferred by the jury. Therefore, there's no more use of this line of questioning, as Detective Chesney has already provided all the answers that we need. Excuse me.
Thank you very much. The motion is overruled. Proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, back to my question, Detective Chesney. You never went back to Corbin Dallas's home to see if he had an identical hiking stick.
Well, sir, we did not find any kind of hiking stick in Corbin Dallas's home when we searched it on the 15th.
Well, just to be clear, when you were searching it then, you were looking for clues to Parker Page's whereabouts, not a murder weapon, right?
That's correct, but there was no hiking staff.
All right, you never looked to see if there was any other weapon that could match the injuries on Parker Page.
Well, sir, there were no weapons in the house.
You took Corbin Dallas at his word, right?
Yes, sir. As I said, I did also run a background check.
I'm sure you checked Corbin Dallas's alibi, right?
Well, again, sir, we did not need to do further investigation once we had interviewed all the other witnesses.
Well, Corbin Dallas told you that he'd been out drinking with friends the night before.
Yes, that's correct.
He told you that he'd gone to a food truck.
Yes.
You never got receipts.
No, sir, that was not necessary.
You never asked for the names of any of those friends.
No, sir.
You never interviewed any of those friends.
Again, sir, with the evidence that we had at that time, we had sufficient evidence to arrest the defendant for this murder. We did not need to further investigate into Corbin Dallas.
Exactly. You never considered Corbin Dallas a suspect in the murder of Parker Page.
Sir, we did, of course, consider Corbin Dallas a suspect when we were still looking for the missing child. Once we had collected all of the evidence at the campground, as well as done interviews with all of the witnesses, and spoken with the defendant, it was very clear that the defendant was responsible for this murder. There was no need to follow up after I originally spoke with Corbin Dallas.
So you're telling this jury that you considered Corbin Dallas a suspect, yet never checked his alibi.
Well, we consider everyone a suspect, sir.
All right, Detective Chesney. No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor. I ask that Detective Chesney be allowed to leave the stand.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh.
Would you like these, sir?
Yes.